Hello, what the hell is this? Why is there a 6 in the middle of my medieval Welsh manuscript?
This question would cost me severely.
A king of probably Powys known as Vortigern, who liked to wear clothes the same colour as his hair, and also had no face. Ross.
While they were busy arguing whether or not it'd be a good idea to have a king called Steve, Owain was taking advantage of the new weakness of the Marcher Lords. In 1146, he captured Mold Castle, not to be confused with my house, which was more of a mold fortress. Griffith ap Cynan died in 1200, and his brother took control of some of his lands, but he was defeated only 2 years later by Llywelyn and Hywel ap Griffith. Llywelyn swore allegiance to the new King of England, John, and married his daughter, Joan. His neighbour Powys had decided to split up, but unlike my parents, this time it wasn't my fault. Powys Wynwynwyn, named after King Gwynwynwyn, decided to enter a win-win scenario.
It's been estimated that wolves in Stone Age Britain were quite uncommon, but these animals appear to have far outlived many of their contemporaries. Of course, if you were to tell them this, they wouldn't be very proud, because they wouldn't be able to understand you.
The voiceless alveolar lateral fricative, the th sound, also known as the one that English speakers mess up so badly that it makes you wonder if God really did abandon Earth. If you were to ask my nan, what comes from Llanrhider, she would say two things: William Morgan's Welsh translation of the Old Testament, revised edition of the New Testament, and the Welsh Book of Common Prayer, and the devil himself. I have seen him and continue to see him in every shadow, at every corner. Why are there Welsh people outside my house? Great question, Ranulph, Earl of Chester's son. A sandwich is made up of at least 3 parts: the foundation, the seal, and the constitution. Like a sandwich, the medieval Welsh kingdom of Deheubarth was too made up of 3 parts. This land was bordered by another tribe, the Ordovices, and some older sources suggest that Ceredigion might have been split between the two. This is because of the presence of a very interesting piece of archaeology, an inscribed stone that contains some of the only evidence we have for the existence of the Ordovices. Of course, inscribed stones, much like the elderly, worsen when left exposed to wind and rain for 2,000 years. Another theory, which, like my son, seems to have lost favour with more recent historians, is that the Demeter surrendered to the Romans peacefully, therefore not requiring any notice. However, recent archaeological findings have forced this theory to, again like my son, be pushed away. A big fort was discovered at a place called Big Fort in Carmarthenshire, which in hindsight I'm sure was incredibly obvious. Interestingly, the site of Llanio had been known for almost 300 years. Apparently the locals were famous for their amateur archaeology on the remains. If I wanted to be violently attacked by a historian, I would call this period the Dark Ages, but I don't, so I won't. And as someone who forgot how to read about 10 years ago, this whole thing has been really difficult. Almost none of these kings are mentioned anywhere else in the Welsh sources. Their names have been passed through like a kidney stone and have been lost to the toilet of time. Saesill does not appear by name in any of the contemporary Welsh sources. Much like my son, he is given no credit for his accomplishments.
James the 6th/1st, named after his KD ratio.
Oh wait, what's this? Walter Map, an English courtier, wrote a fictional story set in the kingdom of Brycheiniog at this time, and he would refer to this as the land of Reynos. This location was also supported by the 16th century poet Lewis ab Edward and the 19th century historian Aneurin Owen.
King Owain was proclaiming rulership over the entirety of Wales. Meanwhile, the King of Arwystli was proclaiming rulership over about 22 people and a couple of large hills. While to the English, Owain may have merely been the upstart Prince of Wales, to the Welsh he was simply and supremely their leader, and to the people of the year 1170 he was dead, because that's when he died.
3 women are married to Arthur? Not in this Christian household.
I actually know someone named Cadwallader, so I asked him what he thinks about all of this, and he said to me, "Wow mate, that's bizarre. I'd heard the story before, but I had no idea how far back, or rather how not far back it goes. By the way, I saw you standing outside my house again last night. You were wearing my clothes and my glasses, and Your hair, it looked like mine. I don't want to sound weird. I mean, this is already weird. I don't want to sound mental. But every time I've seen you out there, you look more and more like me. My mum said hi to me from downstairs yesterday. And I thought it was funny because she didn't shout up to me. It was like she just walked past me, but I wasn't downstairs. You were in my house, weren't you? She was talking to you, wasn't she?
Can we have self-government? No.
Morgan did what everyone does on a typical family barbecue. He killed his uncle, took his land, established a capital at Deganwy, and then died of the yellow fever, which is what my parents called me when I was born with jaundice.
It is in these farms that we can find what is now one of the symbols of Wales, the leek, a plant that originally came from the Middle East. I wonder, if the Romans never invaded, what would our national symbol be instead? Perhaps something more common in this time? Like cholera. It's Ireland time. This story, which involves a drunk prophet who has the ability to turn people into cows, is probably not real.
A few months ago, I spotted something weird. For once, it wasn't a mirror. Before we continue, I'd like to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video. Shrewsbury. I've started learning their Spanish course, not only because learning through real-world conversations is so much better, but also because I'm from the UK, which means I have to infest the shores of Spain at least once every few years. The oldest physical copy of this story can be found in a book known as the Llyfr di Caerfyrddin, the Black Book of Carmarthen, which dates to around 1225 at the earliest, which is almost as old as you.
According to the historians Owen and Morgan, this hill used to be spelt like Blores until becoming Blorench and eventually Blorange, which they suggest might be due to the quote-unquote influence of orange, which is an amazing concept.
You might be asking though, so what? Random places get forgotten all the time. I forgot my own son getting petrol one time and I still haven't gone back to collect him.
Because I could have sworn that there was also something else, something important that I had to remember. Maybe if my carbon monoxide alarm would stop beeping, I could finally focus and figure out what it was. We can split these 7 men into 2 groups, extraordinary violence and other. Wow, wasn't that exhausting? 15 people. The last time I had to meet 15 people was when I crashed into a bus, but unlike that moment, what can we actually learn from all of this? The law in North Wales, Dyll Gwynedd, is the simplest. To have value, a cat must be able to see, hear, it must have claws, kill mice, and not only be able to have kittens, but also not to eat them, a quality that I think more people should seek in their potential partners. Thrilling experience of the Welsh evangelist R.G. Williams, reformed drunkard and gambler, or 48 years in darkness and sin and 11 years in the light and love of Christ Jesus, the best possible title any book has ever had. A passenger had died of smallpox on board. The body was consequently buried at sea, an event that would almost certainly have happened several times in a voyage like this, and unfortunately doesn't happen anymore on today's modern sanitized cruises. In English it was known as Priest Holm or Puffin Island today on the account of all the puffins and the noticeable lack of priests. Now, whilst ignoring your adopted son is great, the reason why Cullen seems to have never ruled is actually because of an outside force. Well, they say to never meet your heroes, so I'm hoping you're all doing okay after British goblins let us down. Our ancestors' equivalents of true crime podcasts would have likely been passing down legends of brutal, man-eating animals, but relatively speaking, this was a rare event.
Because I ate flesh, I am become flesh, he said. Okay.
Whilst I was trying to kill some time during my divorce hearing, I decided to start browsing Wikipedia. Meow. According to these laws, cats produce a product known as worthless milk. They claim that alongside the milk of a female dog and a female horse, all 3 of these products will receive no compensation. Moving on. We've now covered the 3 highly important sectors of medieval Welsh cat lore, Cyfraith Cath, which means that we can finally come to the most important question I've ever had to answer, one that we've all been wondering since birth whether you've known it or not. Mr. Chronicles, if I were to travel back in time to medieval Wales and finally take up my lifelong dream of becoming a cat salesman, how would I do this? Step 4. Do not sell cat milk.
This isn't just a look at this guy and laugh video, because if it was, then this would have just been a face reveal.
Okay, I've studied a lot of English history, and I know who Edward I is, but look at this picture. Where is his nose?
Huh. Cambrian Chronicles. That sounds like the perfect name for that YouTube channel I've been wanting to make. We will be like 2 washing machines placed opposite one another. Forever cycling. Forever linked. And after all that, you might be thinking, what is the takeaway from all of this? How am I meant to feel after this fundamentally ego-altering and shattering information? Well, I said it at the very start. Meow. And step 5. For morale, always try to remember the most famous cat of all, Garfield. Specifically, that these Welsh laws of the cat were actually mentioned in an episode of The Garfield Show. Here, he sees the King of Wales personally proclaim that cats are to be protected because they are cute, clever, and excellent at catching mice. Exactly what we just covered. Except that these laws don't mention them being clever. Sorry, Garfield.
Against all odds, this man whose inheritance was denied to him, whose family kingdom was taken from him, had come back out of nowhere and oh. He's dead. Luckily for us though, Ireland exists. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you all for 100,000 subscribers. The next goal will be to reach 4.7 billion in the next 4 seconds. Okay, so we didn't quite reach that one, but it's okay, we can try again later.
If this video gets 100 likes, I'll make the top 10 stupidest dead animals in Great Britain that I'm glad are extinct.